Good morning dear students. In this video, we are going to discuss about the various themes that is being explained in the No Longer It Is, the novel by Chinua Achebe. The first theme is about the corruptibility of the civil servants. One of the Chinua Achebe's main socio-political criticisms in No Longer at Ease is that of corruption in Nigeria. From the moment the book begins, the main character, Obi Onkubo, is confronted with the issue of bribery. From the moment he arrives at customs to the point at where he gears into taking bribes himself, the voice of Ashby lingers in the backdrop through the words. At first, Obi is as critical as Ashby of bribery. He refuses to take bribes, and also finds it necessary for himself to be a pioneer in Nigeria, bringing down corruption in government and instigating change. Men offer money and women offer their bodies in return for favors and services. Obi believes that by not taking bribes he can make a difference. He had written, while at the university in London, a paper in which he theorized on what would change the corruption of high positions in Nigeria. He believed that the old Africans at the top of the civil service positions would have to be replaced by a younger generation of the idealistic and educated university graduates such as himself. Ashby, however, is not optimistic as Obi because he has Obi fail. Ashby takes us through the path of how someone like Obi can come to take the bribes. The book begins on a negative note, starting over the Obi's trial. It is as if Ashby, by beginning in the end, is saying that Obi was doomed from the start. Obi's position is a difficult one. He is born in Ibo, but he has been educated in England and often feels himself as a stranger in his own country. He has lost his love because of a rule of the past. He has suffered under great financial distress. He has exerted himself because of the expectations others have placed on him, and he has lost his mother. All of this brings the protagonist of the novel to fall into what he once had believed was a terrible and corrupt act. Still, Obi always feels guilt at taking bribe, and he had decided to stop taking them. Still, Obi always feels guilt at taking a bribe, and he had decided to stop taking them. By having Obi get caught, even amid an aura of repentance and guilt, Ashby further illustrates the hypocrisy of all who have participated in bribes and now throw stones at Obi. At the same time, it tells us that although he got caught, Obi is still a pioneer because he has sworn not to do it again. It may be that his beginnings as a pioneer is a rough tone, one that has taken a curved path, but it does not definitely mean that he cannot still lead toward change. Perhaps Ashby may be saying that this is not true, that Obi ultimately has failed at the task he set before himself. Whether the book is a tragedy in Obi's definition of the word or not is up to whether we believe that it is Ashby who is the greatest pioneer in the novel. In other words, it is the author's critical voice that will lead others out of such corruption, if not by only making the world and younger generations of Nigerians aware of it. The second theme that we are going to discuss is about the influence of education. One of the most important aspects of Obi's life is that he was educated in England. This small fact molds the way others treat him and shapes what others expect of him. At the same time, the education he holds dear is also one for which he has felt guilt, and one which has often made him a stranger in his own Nigeria. Upon his return from England, Obies secured a position in the civil service, given a car, money, and respect. At the same time, however, he seems to be making constant mistakes because of what he has learned to be like, what he has come to understand, and what he has never learned. For instance, when first arrives, he is given a reception by the Umofian Progressive Union at which he makes several mistakes. He has forgotten how to act in his home or simply does not agree with its ways. He wears a short sleeved shirt and sees nothing wrong with it, for it is hot and he speaks casually in English, instead of the kind of heavy English that the Umofians admire in the President of the Union. His education has brought him status and has placed him in a position where others expected the most and the best of him. No one can understand in the end how a man of his education and promise could take a bribe. Of course, Ashway says this cheekily, since many who have accused him and who also hold high positions are guilty of similar transgressions. Ironically, the only thing his education did not teach him was how not to be good. Another important aspect of education, aside from the contradictions mentioned above, is the fact that Obi's generation uses its education as a tool, paradoxically, against colonialism. Sam Okole, the Minister of State and also an educated man, verbalizes the position of a populace by saying that, yes, the white man has brought many things to Africa, but it is time for the white man to go. In other words, a man like Obi can use his education to take his country back into his own hands, even if his education is something that the colonizer gave him. It's important to remember that the only way to survive in a world where two cultures have met is to allow a certain amount of mixture to be used in a positive regard. Third point theme that is going to discuss here is about the tradition versus progression. While Obi is in England, he misses his home, longs for his family, writes nostalgic poetry about Lagos and the sun and the trees of his homeland. He even begins to feel a certain degree of guilt at times for studying in London and not being in Nigeria with the other Igbo people. Nevertheless, this English has become a of him, one that he cannot erase when he arrives back in Nigeria. Obi is in love with his native tongue and it holds a place in his heart. At the same time, however, he is also comfortable with the English language. The struggle of language is just one of the many examples of how African tradition and English culture collide in this novel. Obi loves his family dearly, and since his family is a symbolic of his roots, it can be said that he loves his root dearly. This is not to say, however, that he will not rebel against his roots because of things he has learnt elsewhere. Obi possesses the more liberal and even European belief that he may marry anyone he wishes, even though his family and his countrymen are opposed to it. And even though he wishes to marry Clara in the end, despite her story, he is tied to his mother, a symbolic traditional root, his blood. It is this struggle between tradition and the European ways that is evidenced throughout and that is further amplified by the European presence of characters like Mr. Green. And aside from the obvious Mr. Green, there are also the more subtle presences of Europeans at lounges and the restaurants throughout Nigeria, serving English food and importing European beers. Some of these colonial importations and the interactions are good, as is evidenced by the scene about the radiogram between the Obi and the Minister of State. Nevertheless, the struggle exists, and it is obvious that Ashby has a strong negative opinion about colonialism as a whole. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead.